Hey guys, how's it going? I got a little something different for you today. So we made these lightsaber hilts completely out of scrap wood. I'll show you exactly how I made these and how I finished them using my own homemade finish. I know you could probably figure it out on your own, but if you want to see the dimensions that I used to make these, you can check them out in the description below. You can give these away, sell them. My kids absolutely love playing with these things. Or heck, just make some for yourself. And I mean, come on, who doesn't want a cool little completely wooden lightsaber hilt in their office or shop as decoration? So let's go ahead, get started. This video is sponsored by findbuytool. So like I said, we're gonna make these lightsaber hilts entirely out of scrap wood. If you're anything like me, you have way too much scrap wood building up in your garage. This is a great little way to get rid of some of it. So first, I'm gonna take just a straight edge and mark the center on this little piece of stock I'm using. I'm making 3 lightsabers in this video. This is the smallest one by far. One was too small, one was too big, and one was just right. Wait, I think I've heard that somewhere before. Anyways, we're gonna buzz through this little one pretty quick here before we get to the other 2. But first, I just took it over to the table saw, cut off all 4 corners, just setting my blade to 45 degrees. Then I hope to just drill a small hole right in the center at the front of it, and then gently with a rubber mallet, just tap the spur center into that, insert it into the lathe, and then do the same thing on the other end. Just get it centered up and put that live center right up against it and screw it in. This is my first time officially using the lathe on a project and a build on this channel, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm some lathing or wood turning expert. It's all pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. I'll talk a little bit about the lathe that I'm using in just a little bit. But I do know that you want to get that tool rest up as close as you can to the stock, manually turning it and making sure that it's not going to hit that rest. Make sure you wear some protection, get that face mask on, wear a dust mask, and we were ready to start turning. Well, turning the wood. I'm not going to be doing any turning during this project. I'm actually going to be standing rather still. The tools I'm using aren't your traditional like gouge tools you'd see. I'm actually using some carbide tipped wood turning tools, and I've been pretty happy with these so far. Like I said, I don't have much experience with this, but they were cutting really well right out of the box. So once I get this piece of stock completely rounded out, I'm going to start making marks with a pencil. I did take a little inspiration online and just reference some pictures as I was making these. Also, this one was for my daughter, so she had some creative input in the design she wanted. Then just using the different tools that I had. This is a diamond-shaped carbide tip turning tool. Just slowly worked my way down this hilt, using a pencil when I needed to, and also the rounded carbide tip tool for making the pommel at the very bottom. Now, if you've been thinking about getting into wood turning, you've been on the fence about it at all, I highly recommend getting into it. It's crazy how satisfying it is to turn wood. I have not turned wood ever before in my life until about a week or so ago, and I've been having so much fun with it. I can't wait to do more projects and just make chair legs and table legs and all sorts of really cool things. My wife's already asking me to make some kitchen items like bowls and some hardwood rolling pins. I'm actually really looking forward to making those. Now the crazy thing is that this takes no time at all. So, wood turning, try it if you want to. But highly recommend you do. Once I was done carving out the design, I took 120 grit, then 180, then 220 grit sandpaper, just working my way up through the grits, smooth out the wood real nice, and then before I took it off, just finished by sanding with the grain. I think I forgot to mention this is a scrap piece of walnut, in case you couldn't tell. I did practice spinning some softer wood like pine and cedar before this, and I've noticed that you get a much smoother finish when you're using hardwood on a lathe. At least that's my experience in the short time that I've been using this. I want to take a minute and thank the sponsor of this video, findbuytool, and also talk about the lathe that I'm using to make these cool little saber hilts. This is the MachoRool, gotta love the name, 12 by 21 inch variable speed lathe. I've been using the heck out of it since I received it, and so far it's been a solid budget-friendly option for wood turning beginners like myself. I told them when they offered to send this to me that I was going to give my honest opinion after using it, so here you go. This lathe is very sturdy, I gotta say. It's heavy, about 78 pounds, so I didn't need to bolt it down. The gearbox, or the housing that held the pulleys and the belt, did feel a little on the cheaper side, especially when comparing it to some higher end models I looked at. It's not a huge issue, it worked just fine, but just worth noting. That said, everything functioned really smoothly out of the box. It was really easy to set up and start using immediately, which I did. It runs on a 3/4 horsepower motor and gives you 2 speed ranges, from 500 to 1800 RPM in the low range and 1950 to 3800 RPM in the high range. Good control, whether you're roughing out a blank or doing some fine detail work. As a beginner myself, I found it really easy to use. The speed control dial is really nice. The lathe ran really smoothly and quietly. Actually, surprisingly quietly, even when turning a couple off-balance pieces. Yes, I'm still practicing. They also sent me these carbide tip tools, since using a lathe is kind of impossible unless you have the appropriate tools. They came really sharp, like I said earlier, right out of the box. I didn't have to sharpen them before getting started. They cut surprisingly well. All in all, I'd say this is a great starter lathe for the price. It's about half the price of some of those name brand models. So this could be a really affordable way to get into wood turning if that's something you're interested in. It's simple enough for a beginner and powerful enough for most small to medium projects. It's also a really good size, I'd say, to be doing a pretty wide array of projects. If you want to pick one of these up for yourself, support the channel, you can check out the link in the description below. If you do pick one of these up, reach out to me. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear about it. And once I pulled it off the lathe, I took into account that there was going to be these marks from the centers on both ends. So plan ahead and make your stock a little bit longer than it needs to be. That way you can cut the ends off at the end. For the little button or switch, and I know I'm probably designing these lightsabers and using terminology around these lightsabers that is completely incorrect. So if there's any Star Wars fans out there, please correct me in the comments. Let me know what the proper terminology for all the parts and pieces are. The on-off button for the lightsaber, I'm just cutting out of a leftover poplar, dowel. Using some sandpaper just to round it out to fit the contour of the saber hilt. Little wood glue, little clamp, let it dry for 15 minutes, and we're gonna finish it in just a second here. For the second one, I wanted to make it a little bit bigger, so I had this leftover hard maple. I'm just gonna cut it in half and actually do a glue up so I can get a little bit larger diameter on this next saber. I'm also making one for my son here out of some red oak. He really liked this wood actually at the hardwood store, so we picked it up, brought it home, used it for a couple projects and had some left over, so we thought we'd make a lightsaber out of it. We're gonna do the same thing here, cut a couple strips, used a couple pipe clamps here to gently secure it while the glue dried. Once the glue's dry, gonna do the same thing we did before and use the table saw at a 45-degree angle, cut off all 4 corners. Then we're gonna move over to the lathe, mark our centers, get the centers pounded in there using the drill to kind of aid it. And then we're gonna take our carbide tip tool and start getting the cylinder shaped out. I was attempting to recreate Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber, as you can see here on the screen. It didn't come out looking exactly like his lightsaber, but it's a version of it. This hard maple definitely did not cut nearly as easy, obviously, than the other softer woods. I did have to go slower, not make such deep cuts with that square carbide tip. If I needed to go deep, I had to grab the diamond-shaped one. It actually caught and chipped out a bunch of wood when I was using the square-tipped carbide tool. I just chipped it, Elijah. I just broke it.
What?
I just ruined it.
You what?
It just chipped out on me.
Oh no.
It's all right, moving right along here. Like I said, making the designs, it was a lot easier to do the fine detail work with that diamond carbide tip. After playing around and holding the tools, the different tools at different angles, I started to get the hang of how each one reacted to the wood and the designs I could make. I also tried to use the Dremel and carve in some of the handle details. This did not turn out nearly as nice as I was hoping, so I don't know. My Dremel actually was broken. I couldn't swap the bits out on it, so I think a different bit would have worked better to get those straight lines. Anyways, we cut that part out, ended up having a new plan for the bottom of the handle, and it was time to move on to the red oak lightsaber hilt that we were going to make. My son wanted to base it off of Luke Skywalker's hilt, so we got to work. Pretty self-explanatory here. I just set my phone up and had the screen up so I could reference that picture. Then just slowly made my way down the hilt. I'm gonna let this play for a little bit, that way you guys can enjoy some of this really satisfying lathe work here. Or if you want to skip ahead, you can. But I kind of enjoy watching lathe work myself. It's kind of embarrassing how long I'll watch some videos of wood turning. After doing some final sanding here with the 120 all the way up to 220 grit, sanding with the grain, just taking it off the lathe, cutting off both ends again to get rid of those marks, doing some final sanding on both ends. And then for the on-off buttons, I know I'm saying that wrong, just cutting some scrap walnut pieces here, pulling out the oscillating belt sander, and just very gently and carefully holding it up against one of the spindles on the sides, and it actually worked out perfectly, getting that curve on the inside of the button lined up really nicely with the curve of the outside of the hilt. Also added a little bit of a chamfer to the outside, added some glue. Just a thin layer is all you need. You don't want too much squeeze out here, but we clean it up a little bit later too. And then same thing as before, just taking a little clamp, putting a little amount of pressure on there just so it adheres well. These are gonna get played with pretty hard by my kids. Let it dry, cleaned any squeeze out up with a nice sharp chisel. Did any final sanding we had to do just to smooth everything out, make it look nice and crispy. And then as far as the finish goes, I wanted to use something completely non-toxic. So we're just using 4 parts mineral oil to 1 part beeswax here. You just melt it on your stove in a pot. I actually show how to make it in the katana video that me and my son built. Just rub it on there, let it sit for a few minutes and wipe it off with a rag and you're good to go. All right, my friends, there you go. There you have it. Don't forget to check out the free plans and dimensions in the description if you guys want. Also, I want to thank findbuytool for sponsoring this video. This MachoRool lathe seems like a great budget option. I've really enjoyed using mine so far, and I've got a lot of plans for it here coming up. Be sure to check out the link in the description if you guys want to pick one up for yourself. But if you guys like this video, you'll like this one right over here. So I'll see you there.